As a confidence coach in Calgary who works with businesses and individuals, I have seen that confidence looks different for everyone. In this podcast, we explore confidence through the eyes of our diverse community, redefining it one conversation at a time. Welcome to Confidence Redefined. I'm your host, Alyssa McMasters. Today, we are sitting down with Lulu Mashanganika. Raised in Zimbabwe alongside 7 siblings, Lulu always knew that children would be a central part to her life. Now, as a mother of 2 boys and the founder and CEO of LitCare Connect, Canada's first virtual platform connecting parents with child-related products and services, Lulu has brought her vision to life. As an immigrant and woman of color, she has successfully navigated the challenges of Calgary's tech scene to create an inclusive digital village for parents. Inspired by her journey as a working mother and childcare provider, Lulu's innovative platform is dedicated to making childcare more accessible and supportive. In this conversation, we explore what confidence looks like in motherhood, business, and within yourself while navigating the elusive balance of having it all. Hi, Lulu. How are you?
I am great. Good morning. How are you?
I am pretty good, thank you. I'm so excited that you are here. And we met when we were doing a panel for motherhood in business, mothers in business.
Yes.
And I just thought that you were so eloquent and exciting, and everything that you're doing is so exciting. So I'm so excited to have you here today.
I am excited to be chosen to have this conversation with you.
Great. Well, let me tell you a little bit about why I really wanted to bring you in.
Okay.
When I heard you speak, and I understand what you do, and we'll talk a little bit more about your company, it really showed me just how confident you are and that you have to be coming from Zimbabwe, starting a company in tech as a Black woman, which sometimes I know you feel like the lonely only, and also having children and doing all of this while you have young children. And something we often don't talk about is like the side of motherhood and how we can be confident in motherhood because it tests our confidence.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So let's kind of start from the beginning. When you came to Canada from Zimbabwe, what year was that?
I came to Canada from Zimbabwe in 2007.
Yeah.
It wasn't direct Zimbabwe to Canada. I was a little kind of adventurous globetrotter before that. So I grew up in Zimbabwe, lived in England, lived in South Africa, a little bit in the US, and then finally landed in Canada.
Okay, and what landed you here? What was the deciding factor?
After living in England, I realized I needed more of a homey feel. And Canada had that homey feel, a good balance of work and life, and the mountains were calling, and I answered.
Oh, beautiful. And was it always Calgary for you?
No, it was Toronto, actually.
Okay.
And then the hustle and bustle of Toronto, the traffic and the busyness just wasn't connecting with me. And so I heard about Alberta, heard about Edmonton and Calgary. So making the choice, good thing I had friends in Calgary and made the decision easier.
Great. And then you came over here single, and then you met your husband in Calgary or in Toronto?
No, actually, I met my husband. He was a friend, a brother for years.
Okay, of course.
We used to go to the same church. And when I came here, we were in a long distance relationship for 4 years.
4 years?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that. How did that work?
How did it work, or did it work? Yes. Well, we're married now, so we're going to say it worked.
Yeah.
There was no WhatsApp. There was Skype, and we depended a lot on video calling on Skype, and it was hard. It was very hard, but somehow we made it.
And when you know, right? And you're just going to keep it. That's beautiful. How did you meet him?
At church.
Oh, yes, of course. Met at church.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And now you have 2 beautiful kids together, and they are 5 and 8. Is that correct?
5 and 7.
5 and 7.
Yes.
And the youngest just finished daycare yesterday.
Daycare was last day yesterday, so big school, kindergarten in September.
How does that feel?
It's surreal. It's I think COVID robbed me of being a mom to a baby. We were home a lot, but we didn't get to be adventurous.
Yeah.
Compared to Inami, my older one, we went out, we went on play dates, we went, there was lots of adventure. But with Ivan, it was more like we're just at home
Yeah. And those COVID moms, like I gave birth in 2022, so kind of at the end of COVID.
Yes.
But that was such a hard time. You had no village. And I know that you also in our panel, we talked about kind of the difference of me having 2 sets of grandparents here and you not having any sets of grandparents and how that looks. So I have 2 questions with that. How did you build your confidence in motherhood when you didn't have any kind of village because of COVID?
So when I had my first son, I think he was 18 months when I decided to step away from the corporate world and start a day home with the intention of spending more time with him. And then I had my second one. So I was other parents, other moms' village per se. So I was taking care of the village. And when COVID hit, I still had to continue providing that support because majority of the clients or the families were doctors and essential workers. So we had to continue.
Yeah. And something that I often hear, let's also ask a question of like when you came over and, you know, you meet your husband, you have kids, and your parents, are they still in Zimbabwe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you don't have the grandparents that a lot of people do have, and it actually feels less and less people have those grandparents.
Yes.
How do you gain the confidence to have your own time in your own space and be your own person and also start a business in all of it?
It's interesting because the proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. My experience being brought up in Zimbabwe was like, man, it's easy to be a parent. Let's just have more kids. Let's just have more kids. The uncles are there, the aunties are there. And having childcare, whether it's paid or free, it seemed seamless, right? But when we started having our own kids, we could feel the loneliness of parenthood.
Yeah.
We have a great, amazing church family, community and friends. I'm a social bee, so it's easy. But for a lot of people, it's difficult to find that village or even build that village.
Yeah.
So I think church has made me, was kind of my family, is kind of my family, and then work colleagues and the ecosystem as I build a business becomes that village.
Yeah. And I saw on TikTok something really interesting, and it was, now we have a village, we just have to pay for it, right? Which is really often too sad, and it can be really, really hard to find childcare. So tell me why you started Lit Care Connect.
The why. I could not be the village for everybody. So I had 6 families that I was caring for in my day home. And on weekends, they would ask nicely, please, Lulu, can we bring our child? I just need some time off. But because I have my own family, I needed to strike the balance between providing care and caring for my own family. And so I would try and connect them with babysitters in the community. I think the biggest eye-opener was when I received a call at 2 a.m. From one of the day home's moms, and she was in labor. And she needed care for her toddler at 2 a.m. And I got out of bed and went and cared for the baby whilst she went to have her second baby. And it was at that moment when I realized if I needed pizza at that time, I could have easily ordered pizza. Needed a ride, I could have easily gotten a ride. But because it was childcare, she was even scared to call me because it was like, it's 2 a.m. But yeah.
Yeah. And tell me more, let's kind of even go back a little. What is Lit Care Connect? Can I explain it from my point of view, and then you can kind of explain it from your point of view?
Sure.
I think it's one of the coolest tech companies in Calgary, Alberta, that is helping. I kind of describe it as like an Uber for childcare, where you can go on, all the people are vetted, they've already done all the things. Instead of hiring someone, you know, we love hiring our 16-year-old girl down the street, but you can rest assured that these people are vetted and they are ready to give care that's needed, and it can happen the day of, the moment of, if someone needs something, and they're already ready to go. Is that a good explanation? I also want to hear from your side too.
It's awesome. It's so close. Actually, it's perfect. I should steal that explanation.
Yeah, the Uber for childcare.
Uber for childcare. So many a times when we talk about childcare and babysitter, the first thing that comes to mind is the neighbor's daughter.
Yeah.
It's really the boy next door. it's the neighbor's daughter. But I've come to realize that the millennial parent needs childcare anywhere, anytime. So the word of mouth doesn't necessarily work in this generation. It's easier to connect, whether it's childcare, whatever you need, it seems tech is what's gonna work and help everybody and is more convenient. And the ability to screen people makes it easier for you to connect with a trusted childcare provider. And the fact that you can actually do a meet and greet on the platform before they come in, that builds the confidence with you and the kids with the care provider.
Yeah. And do you have a tech background?
Oh, no. I'm the chief of non-tech founders.
Love that.
And so when I started Lit Care, it was spreadsheets and Word document calling people. And so when I gained more experience with using Uber and Airbnb, I was like, if this can be done for everything else, why can't it be done for childcare?
I love that. And I work with a lot of women in tech, and I always find it interesting that a lot of them don't come from tech. And people are wanting to get into tech because it's so exciting and things look, you get like the little bit more faster paced stuff and you're changing the world in a really beautiful way. Mm-hmm. How did you gain the confidence to go from spreadsheets and calling people to the tech world?
I don't know if we could say I gained the confidence, but I was forced into it because the reality is tech is the new thing and it's not going anywhere. And the truth is it is helping and making life easier. And so it was during COVID, and so there was no mentors, advisors, or incubators or accelerators that I could join. And so I used my friend Google to explore and try and figure out how I can build Lit Care and incorporate tech in connecting parents with childcare providers. And so the 2 years of COVID, it was just me and Google. And when COVID was over and I was exposed to the ecosystem, I realized that there's probably more support, and I started gaining that confidence of building a tech-based business.
Beautiful. Yeah. And we talk about the village as a mother and having a village there, but we also have a village when we're an entrepreneur too. Tell me about kind of how you built that village around you to help you start doing something you've never done before.
So it takes a village is used everywhere, whether it's raising a child, it's building something. We always say, it takes a village, let's do this, right? But for me, I found that building authentic relationships helped me gain more confidence and get excited about building a business. And so connecting with individuals who have done what I'm trying to do, and also connecting with individuals who are trying to do what I am doing. As a Black woman, sometimes you sit in the house and you're thinking, should I step out? Will there be support? Will there be somebody who can listen to me and hear me? And I realized, just be bold. Like, take the leap and the nets will appear is one of my favorite quotes. So yeah.
Beautiful. And do you feel that the net appeared when you took the leap?
Oh, yes. To be honest, it took like 4 years before I actually saw the nets. So I could have easily given up, but there were people who were coming up and be like, I've been watching you, but I think you should do this now. And this is like 4 years later, and you're like, where have you been all this time? But the timing, it's always right when it happens.
Yeah, and I love hearing that too, because I think so many people think, especially in tech, it's like an overnight success. You all of a sudden get all this funding and you're having so much fun in 6 months, but you grinded for 4 years in order to kind of get that net and that ability to feel like you have that village or that community in order to help you in that entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Now, and being a Black woman in tech, and again, not only is it you're the only woman, but you're also often the only person of color.
Yes.
How do you gain the confidence in that capacity to be able to step into your power and be yourself in a room of people that don't look like you?
I've held on to believing that I have more to offer than what I've always thought. Yeah. So a lot of times we think it's about going out there and asking, and we undermine or underestimate what we can bring to the table too. So there are moments when you're having a conversation with someone and you say something and they're like, I needed that. Or I needed that advice, or I needed to hear that. And then that's when I realized that I may not have all the techie answers, but there are some elements of me, whether it's mentally, emotionally, that I can bring to the table, and that makes me, helps build authentic relationships.
Yeah. I want to hear your point of view. I'm going to tell you my point of view too about what your kind of biggest thing you bring to the table is. From my perspective, knowing you, you're able to make people feel so comfortable so quickly. You're able to connect with people very quickly. Where does that come from?
Oh, I love people. I love people of all ages. If you look at my list of friends, I have like 2-year-old friends. I have a 100-year-old friend. Well, she turned 102 last.
You're like, I'm not exaggerating, actually.
Yes, I actually have lots of friends. And I think sometimes it feels like a weakness because I'm putting my all into making sure everyone is okay. And now being a mom, it's like I put my all to being a mom, all to being a wife, my all to being a great church member, my all being a community supporter. And I think I just love people to see people succeed.
Yeah.
And it brings me joy seeing people do better than when they first met me.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think your biggest skill is? So I think it's people. Do you agree, or do you think it's something different?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's people. People, hospitality. I love hosting people. I love my full-time job whilst I'm building childcare actually is a facilitator for the self-employment program. So when people come in with an idea and we go through that 20 weeks together and they launch their business, that's like, wow, you see, you had it in you, and we bring it out together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said you give it your all to everything. And women and mothers often are doing that. We are playing 17 roles at once. How do you manage the burnout?
Do I manage it? I don't know. I'm yet to find out, but I've learned that you can't do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
So you can do it all, but you have to select. Is this the time for motherhood? And focus on that. The phone calls will come in about building childcare. The developers will be stressed. But if that moment is for the boys, it's for the boys.
Yeah. And I talk a
And
lot
it's a
about
tough decision.
it is a hard decision to figure out what kind of needs your attention the most. Yeah. I like to call it seasons. Like there is no such thing as balance. Like when people are like, oh, I have a great balance of work life. That's just not a real thing.
No.
It's a choice, and you can choose what season is kind of most important and kind of needs the most support. Do you have any advice for people who are maybe new to motherhood and are kind of trying to start balancing it and not really knowing where to start?
Set your own goals.
Yeah.
Set your own goals, because as women, we seem to have this, let's compare and have goals based on someone else and not realizing that individual struggles. And so if you set your own goals, when things don't work out, it's okay, because you can reflect and say, you know, I've come this far, or this is how far I have to go. And so telling yourself, this is the kind of mother I want to be. This is the kind of mother I want to show up as. And when I'm not being mother, I'm at work, just be you.
Yeah.
Being authentic, I guess, in short.
Being authentic. And it's so hard because you see all these different lifestyles on Instagram and TikTok, and they're all the highlight reels. Yes. Everything's the best. You see the more traditional wife, right? And that looks awesome. And you're like, well, maybe I just want to just quit my job and go live on a farm. And then you see like the working mom, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I want to start a business. And then you see, the stay-at-home mom, and you're like, oh, maybe I want to do that. It can be really hard to decide what version of mother you want to be. So I love that, setting your own goals. Do you think, and I kind of think, and you tell me what you think too, kind of setting your goals before and then kind of after you have kids, and really sitting with yourself even like every 3 months, because things are going to change so much. I remember like before I had my baby, I was like, oh, it's going to be so great and everything's going to be so easy. And then I had a really traumatic birth, which put a whole damper in all of my kind of goals. So if I would have kept the same goals that I had before my birth and after, it just like would have been decimated, right? Because at the time, those 3 months was just me surviving. So I think like also finding those like goals and kind of setting them every 3 months can be really helpful. What do you think?
I totally agree. I mean, I love Nelson Mandela's quote. He says, you never lose. It's either you win or you learn. And I've taken that in my motherhood journey to say, I set a goal. We're going to be this amazing 4 family with 2 little kids. We're going to dress the same. We're going to eat healthy. The first 3 weeks of back to school, the lunch boxes have a little smiley apple. And the reality is after 3 months, the burnout starts kicking in and you can't do it all. But celebrating the little milestones and the little outcomes makes you appreciate life in general.
Yeah, celebrating the little things, right? And I think motherhood really makes you see those little things really in front of you, because sometimes you're in the house, especially that first kind of 6 months, year, you might be in the house alone with this baby the whole time. Something else kind of about goals and motherhood that I really like is changing your idea of success. So when things are great, yeah, you might be able to get up at 7 and go to work and then come home and then work out. But when you are in the depths of having a newborn crying, maybe success looks like taking a shower that day. What was your idea of success before kids versus now?
I think because I belong to such a huge community, I learned that I don't recognize my success. It's when I'm having a conversation and someone is like, you're such a cool mom. And you're like, me? What are you talking about, right? And so sometimes you do your best and then somebody else is able to pinpoint your success or what you're doing good at. And then you're like, oh, wow, yes, it is me.
Like,
and then
yeah,
you
I'm actually
celebrate.
great.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
I have a tool that I use my clients called the kudos log, where I have like a log on Google Drive or wherever. And whenever you get like one of those compliments that you're like, actually, I am doing really well, put it in the log.
Yes.
And then you can look in a year and you're like, holy, I just got like 50 awesome like compliments that I just like wouldn't have seen. So do you have any other kind of tools that you use or kind of just like things that you do to keep that in mind when things feel hard?
I have this little journal that
Cute.
I keep, and the first 3 things are things that I can actually do. So it's wake up. So I cross that off. So I have a long list of like maybe 25 things to do in one day. But if I have like wake up, I'm like, I did something. Cross it out. Make your bed. Cross it out. Brush your teeth. Cross it out. And then slowly and gradually start doing the hard things. And then when you get to work, it's like, okay, I have to got this. But you've gained that confidence to say, I can do something today.
Yeah. Doesn't that crossing off just feel so good?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
You're done.
Yes.
Beautiful. I want to talk a little bit more about lit care. Right now, you're kind of in the middle of building a minimum viable product.
Yes.
What does that kind of process look like for you?
So a minimum viable product, I've decided to stick with the minimum lovable product because I've been building and it crashes halfway to flying. And so now the process is more user involved. I've managed to connect more with the users than the builders. You get to a point where you're like so focused on tech that you lose that connection with the actual users or the potential users. And so right now we are building the MVP and getting feedback from moms especially. I mean, dads are awesome too, but the challenge is really, it lies with moms more than with dads.
Yeah, and we see that in society. Yes. And for people who are not in tech, MVP would be like most viable product, which means like this is what you're going to bring to possible investors, bring to the community, really show people what they're doing. But I love that you call it most lovable products because you're like, I don't want it to be viable, like good enough. I want it to be lovable.
Exactly.
And right now you're looking for different caregivers to come on and join the team. Is that correct?
Yes. So LitCare is not just about babysitters and childcare. It's that digital village. It's an opportunity for families and care providers and any child-related businesses and organizations to come together in one space and build that digital village so that when you need anything child-related, it's there.
Okay, awesome. So like I need a sleep coach, I go to LitCare. I need a feeding coach and maybe a lactation consultant, I can go to LitCare.
And after having
so
a baby,
wonderful.
you kind of need a little boost of confidence. You've got your confidence coach.
You got me.
Right there, right?
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
And what was your biggest challenge? Because I know 4 years of being in this space, there's some challenges. Do you want to talk about what your biggest challenge was and how you overcame it?
I think the biggest challenge is being new into not just the tech space, but also being a new entrepreneur, a new founder, going through it alone. The lonely journey of being a solo entrepreneur is the toughest. I may have my husband and I may have friends who are cheering me on, but when the tough conversations have to happen, the tough decisions have to happen, whether it's mentally, financially, product-based, or marketing strategy, I've been alone for so long. So that was, I would say, the biggest challenge. And funding. I mean, women are only funded like only less than 3%, I believe. And it's even worse for women of color. So those have been the biggest challenges, but you slowly get to work with what you have, whether it's bootstrapping, getting volunteers, until the breakthrough comes.
Yeah, and the breakthrough is going to come. It is going to come.
It's going to come.
So soon, because now the MVP is almost done, or MLP. Yes. That's exciting. Yes. And when you say, as like an entrepreneur myself that like works alone, it's so, those big decisions, all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's a decision that is going to change the outcome of your company. Make it. You don't have the information, but Google it.
Yeah, exactly.
Google it, ask your network. How do you find the confidence to make those big decisions by yourself?
I think now that I have a village helping me build LitCare, and when I say a village, I don't mean like co-founders or employees. It's more like mentors and people I look up to who are willing to share their insights and advice. So it's like we're having a board meeting or we're having a team meeting and it's me in the mirror. But when the decision has to be made, I call up a mentor. I call up someone who I know has got more experience, and gathering my initial thoughts and that information, I'm able to make better decisions now.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you said something really beautiful to me in the past. And I want you to explain a little bit if you're okay with that. Is you said, I personally might not be invited to some of those rooms, but I build a community to raise their hand for me.
Yes. I don't like saying being a woman of color, being Black is hard. But it's hard, especially in the tech space. You walk into a room and you're sometimes the only woman, but now there's more women, which is awesome. But being the few women of color, it's hard. And there are spaces, like I've always said, that you would have never entered if somebody had not spoken up for you or represented you. So there are people who are cheering for you behind the scenes and mentioning your name, and at the end you'll find yourself in spaces and tables that you'd have never sat in.
Yeah. And our mutual friend April Hickey, she said something that I just adore, is that women are over mentored. We have so many people who are telling us like, do this and do that, and we're willing to help each other, but we're under sponsored. And a sponsor is someone who raises your hand for you when you're not in the room.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that you've been able to build that. Now I have two sides of this question. How can a woman of color build that community to find those sponsors who will raise their hands for them?
I think it goes back to building authentic relationships. I find when I first started, I used to go into a conversation or a coffee with an ask before building a relationship.
Interesting.
And I find the more you build a relationship, you're laying a good foundation to make an ask or even offer something that you can do.
Isn't that interesting? Because often we're like, okay, well, I need help. I need a volunteer for this next event. I'm just gonna just go for coffee and ask if they can come. And now you're like, well, let's go for like 5 coffees. Yeah. Actually get to know each other. Let me learn your kids' names. Let me learn kind of your story. And then I'll ask you once we kind of have that really kind of symbiotic relationship. That's great.
Yeah.
And then how can either men or women, white women, help women of color step into that room?
Oh.
And here's the thing, is like, that's actually not an answer for you to answer. This is more for us to be able to learn how we can do that. But from your perspective, how can allies support?
I feel like a lot of allies know what needs to be done and what needs to be said. It's the fear. I feel like there's a lot of fear in, if I'm the one who steps up and supports or says something, what happens to what I am building? What happens to my community? What happens to my business? Will I be looked at that Black empowerment kind of individual? So I think the best thing to do is decide, make the decision. Am I going to be that true ally? Being supportive. It helps with knowing what needs to be said and when it needs to be said. Yeah.
And decide. Just decide to do it. And whatever fear comes up, push it to the side, because it's so much more important to raise up the people around us than our own fear.
Yeah. And then many a times you'll find people saying, how can I help? But when you look at what they do and what they've done, you know exactly what I need. I always give this example. My husband sometimes feels like killing me, but he'll come down on a Sunday when we're cleaning the house and he'll be like, how can I help?
Yes. So almost, okay, let's kind of chat about that a little bit, because like an invisible task type thing.
Yes.
This is an invisible task is something that often women do that men just like don't realize. Example, your partner will be really excited about making dinner, and you don't give them the huge round of applause because you're like, I'm so happy that you made dinner. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But do you know who did the grocery shopping, who looked at all of the things that needed to be done, who also looked at your kids' dietary restrictions, who also decided how much was needed, who also made the entire meal plan? Yeah. I'm happy that you made dinner, but there's a lot more that goes into it. So I'm actually wondering if there's a lot of invisible tasks that also happen kind of behind the scenes for you when someone says, well, how can I help?
I struggle to explain this, but I find these men, especially men, who will, so we meet today, 6 months later, they'll call and be like, I connected you with a group of students who want to help with your marketing. I connected you with somebody who can help with your financing. I know you're struggling with a loan that you took and things are not going as well. And you're like, but you've been quiet for 6 months. And they're like, I'm a true supporter. I was just trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So sometimes it doesn't have to be instant, and sometimes allies have to take a step back, like configure things, and then take action. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
To think that too. Yeah. It doesn't have to be tomorrow or the next day. You can kind of sit there and feel when you can be a good fit for someone.
Yeah. And 4 years later, some people are stepping up and it's like, wow. So you were there behind the scenes.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
I want to kind of go back to motherhood and the side of, let's maybe talk about, like we talked about the invisible tasks. I want to get a little bit deeper into kind of what that looks like and why women maybe feel alone even when they're not. And we can kind of both give our points of view on this because we're both moms and we've both been through this.
I actually am honored, excited, happy that I have a hands-on husband. And when I decided to start LitCare Connect, he was like, we're not going into this together. It sounded weird when he said it. And now when I look back, I realize one of us needed to be a parent.
Interesting.
So while I'm busy building LitCare, having 2 a.m. meetings, because there was a time when developers were out of country and the time difference, he was there putting the boys to bed. He takes them to taekwondo. He takes them to the piano lessons. Sometimes I feel jealous because daddy has them but it's a sacrifice I need to make LitCare work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we talk about like a really hands-on partner, I thought that was also really interesting because I also often say lucky. But I also think there's more to it. I think that there's communication involved. There's like really, really being open with your partner about what you need. I know that really helped me. My husband is very hands-on too. Yeah. And as much as I'm very lucky that he wants to be, I also am very proud of us for building this relationship where we have this really open communication. And the biggest piece is that when I go away for the day, like I'm working, I don't have to leave a plan of how to change diapers and how to do lunch. But at the beginning, I did, and I wanted to because I was so afraid. I'm the only person who can do this. But realizing that other people can do it too is actually a really challenging thing to let go, that you're like, okay, maybe I'm not the only person who can take care of my kid. Did you find the same thing at the beginning? Did you kind of have to like let go of some of that control?
So when we had my first son, I ended up in hospital 2 days after. And so I feel like he was like thrown into the deep end and was at home with the baby, so he had no choice. But that being said, he did a lot of reading, a lot of preparation for fatherhood. But as a woman in general, I feel like we don't believe that anyone else can do it. And when we take that spirit into business, we easily get burnt out. Because you want to be the one answering to the emails. You want to be the one doing the marketing strategy because you fear that anyone else who tries to help may not bring it out the way you want to bring it out. And so it's a matter of trusting your husband when it comes to parenthood, that they will do what is right. I mean, they would never do something to harm your kids, right? And same thing with business is we're perfectionists. We're moms and we're like, I won't let it go until it's perfect. And that has been the downfall for LitCare, trying to wait until it's perfect.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting, the similarities between motherhood and business? It really is the same.
It is the same.
And it has a lot of the same skills that are needed too.
Yes,
Do you have any advice? I want to learn maybe some advice for both moms and dads, or primary caregivers and kind of that secondary caregivers. Yeah. I also call it default parenting. Have you heard of the term default parenting?
Yes.
Let's talk about default parenting. And then the question that I have is, what advice do we have for moms and then also dads about how they can allow mothers to kind of let go a little and how dads can kind of take a little bit more of the brunt. But first, let's kind of chat a little bit about default parenting and what your kind of perception of default parenting is.
I'll go back to it takes a village. So I always give an example of when we're in church and my son is being, a kid. Kids will be kids. And rarely do I have to be the one standing up to go and say, stop talking or stop making noise, because I know there's that community who we believe the same thing. We believe in the same values and we're on the same page. So I think it's easier for us as women to make sure we express or show what our values are and what we want for our kids, and our default parents or default childcare providers usually just reflect on what you have shown them.
Yeah.
So when you are away and your child asks for candy and daddy usually says yes, but sometimes they will think twice, what would you say? So it's building the foundation and make it clear what your expectations are indirectly. Yeah. And somehow that community ends up.
Yeah. I have a really interesting thing that happened between my husband and I, including default parenting, that I really helped him understand what was going on. And again, in that first 3 months, whether or not you're breastfeeding or not, it's really a lot to do with moms. Yeah. And I said, listen, you could just go shower. You just go to the bathroom and I have to ask to go to the bathroom or ask to go shower, which means that I'm on 24/7. Even when I can go shower or take a little break, I still have to ask for it. I still have to kind of get things ready. And that was the thing that he was like, I never even considered that I don't ask to go take a shower. He's like, would it be really helpful if I now started asking? And I was like, yeah, actually that would be really helpful if you started asking too. And that changed a lot. Just like the ability for him to start seeing how much of those little things that I do, those little tasks, and asking for the same things that a lot of moms, have to ask for, was really helpful for us. It's just starting to find those little things, because they're micro, right? They're often not huge things. It's not the big issues. It's those small little things that you almost don't realize that really burn us out at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I find as an immigrant, like, culture and societal expectations are the drivers of burnout for moms. I remember our first time visit to Zimbabwe with our little son. When we were here, he can change the diaper. He will like carry my son in the what you call it, baby carrier. He will do what is considered mom's job, right? But when we're back home, he would look at me when it's time to change the diaper, and because I respect the culture, it's a different ball game. It's like, so if I was here, I would have to do all this on my own.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't blame the dads necessarily. Sometimes it's what is expected, and they have to be intentional in being different.
That's so interesting, because even the culture in Canada has changed so much, where our dad, like my dad, like it was like 30% of them had changed diapers, like 70% had never changed diapers.
Exactly.
And now this new generation of dad, it's like 99% of dads have changed diapers. So I really like that point of view too. Like it really changes with culture. It's not just individuals' problem, it's culture. And it's interesting because you also said at the beginning that Zimbabwe, you have that village, back home. So it like neither is right or wrong. It's just so different.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And that's when you talk about striking the balance, like take the good from each side and make it work.
Yeah. Is there any other major differences you see from Canada and Zimbabwe in terms of raising children?
I find that children who have grandparents close by, or who the grandparents are the default child care providers, are happier. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But even research has shown that maternal grandparents who are more hands-on with childcare, the kids and the parents are happier.
Yeah.
So that's something I really admire about our culture, having close family be part of your village.
Yeah. And when we don't have that family, what are ways, or those close village? And I really love that you said, I found that in church, right? You can find it other places as well. It might not be exactly the same as the maternal kind of grandparents. But is there anywhere else that you found a really cool way to incorporate a new village?
Oh, birthday parties.
Hey, yeah. And now they're coming in school. Like now they'll both be in school.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. So I love throwing birthday parties for my boys. I go the extra mile, and that comes with a bit of guilt that I'm not there as much as I would want to be. So I go all out. And when I invite, this year my son said to me, "Mommy, it's not your birthday."
Like, it is actually. It is my parent birthday. It's like, it's not about you.
Mommy, we're not inviting so and so, so and so, so and so, because it's usually like my whole village. I want them to be there, and I want to celebrate with them because we've come this far. We're celebrating another year because we've done it together, right? We've helped this little boy grow. But yeah, that's kind of changing now with them making their own decisions.
That's really interesting too. Yeah, like once they get into school or even daycare, my son has a best friend and has had a best friend in daycare forever. And his mom is like, hey, the kids are best friends. Come over, let's hang out. And it ended up being awesome. And she's now a good friend of mine too.
Yeah, and that's what I love about kids. Kids are the best teachers. There's some mom friends that I have that I would have never handpicked myself. But because of the kids' relationships and how they interact with each other, especially for me, it's about color. My first son struggles a lot with racism and being called brown, black, for whatever reason. But my 4-year-old, 5 now, he builds authentic relationships. The kids, it's just natural. Right?
Yeah.
And then we end up being besties with the moms, and it's this wonderful group of moms. So I think learning from kids that there's no color.
Yeah.
We're just all a happy village.
Yeah. And how do you, with your oldest, how do you deal with the racism that he faces?
Oh, it's hard.
I can imagine.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle. We went home to Zimbabwe in December last year, and in March he was like, "Mommy, can you just send me to Zimbabwe for school? I'll come and visit you on the holidays." And I didn't know why, until he told his teacher that he's being bullied, called names, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but we have kind of prepared ourselves and have those conversations. They're not the best. They don't prepare them, but at least they know that it's easy now, but it may get tougher as they grow up.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of white people are like, oh, it doesn't happen anymore. We're so much more advanced, but it does, right?
Does.
And we need to
It
really
does.
make sure that we understand how we're talking about race and how we're talking about it very early on, so that every child feels safe in school.
Yes, and I believe conversations that we as parents have, whether it's black or white families, they have a big influence on how kids treat each other at school, at daycare, in the playground. So we have to be very careful what we say, how we say it, because the kid will just repeat.
Yeah, and representation really matters, right?
Yes.
Making sure that you go out of your way to have friends who are different races, who are different, even genders, who
Yes.
are different in general, to have that ability that people are grown up and,
Yes.
and build their lives with all different kinds of people. I've seen that being very helpful for our family as well.
Totally agree. Yeah.
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 I want to go back to something you said about you have these big birthday parties because you feel a little guilty. Let's talk about mom guilt. About when, a lot of moms, whether you are a stay-at-home mom and you're like, well, I should be contributing financially to the family. Or you are a working mom and you're like, well, I should be home more often. There's always this I should. There's always this little bit of guilt that comes there. How do you manage that guilt that you have?
Honestly, I don't. I cry a lot. I cry a lot because not only am I a tech founder, I'm building a business, I'm working full time, and I'm expected to be an awesome mom. And I find the guilt is so bad that sometimes I don't realize I don't have to be that guilty, and I don't have to do some things to cover up the guilt.
Lulu, I love that answer so much. Yeah.
So sometimes there was a day when my son was in hospital. He had surgery, and the employee guilt kicked in. And so I facilitated a session at the side of my son's hospital bed because I wanted the employer to be happy, and I wanted my son to know I'm there for him. And so mom guilt sucks.
Mom guilt sucks. And it's a society thing, right? And as much as like we can say, oh, well, just do this and you'll feel better, it's actually just putting a lot of extra guilt on moms, like an extra thing, like, oh, you'll feel better, you won't feel guilty if you do this. Yeah. Throw bigger birthday parties. Make sure you come home as early as you can. Get up early and make pancakes that are different things. I really love that. Like maybe there's actually nothing we need to do, and just understand that like mom guilt is a thing because our society tells us that we're supposed to parent like we don't have a job and have a job like we don't have kids.
Exactly.
It's a society thing. So what if we just allowed that to be and just say, yeah, mom guilt is a real thing. It's a real feeling, but I don't have to do anything about it.
And as moms, as parents in general, we undermine conversations with your kids. There's bedtime conversations I have with my boys that make me realize they love me and they appreciate me more than I think. And so being true to them, sometimes when I'm preparing for a pitch competition, I'm taking a lot of time away from them, but he'll be like, Mommy, okay, start, you have 5 minutes. The timer is on. And then he'll be listening to me as I practice my pitch. And when I'm leaving, he'll be like, all the best, Mommy. When I come back, how did you do? So he's kind of involved, and we're spending that time where I could be just a founder, spending it as a mom too.
And do it both at the same time and involve them. And I think we forget that kids are like way smarter than we give them credit. And they really just want to be part of things. My son, if he could do the dishes with me every day, he'd be pumped. He'd be so excited. And we forget that like they don't need to have all the toys and all the time and all these crazy things. They just need their parents, right? And they just need someone to love them. I think there was a study, I forget the exact percentage, but it was all a child needs is one person who loves them unconditionally. That doesn't matter if that's a parent, a grandparent, even a teacher. They need one person who loves them to feel like they're thriving. Now, my mom guilt, let me tell you, mine comes from, oh my goodness, when Logan turned about 1, he only wanted daddy for 8 months. No. It was not just like, and everyone's like, it's a phase. It'll last a couple weeks. And I was like, okay, this isn't a phase anymore. This is like lasting a really long time. And I remember the day that he chose me, 8 months later, my husband was like, I'm really proud of you. I know how hard that was to like sit through that. And he did everything he could to be like, hey, it's mommy's turn to put you to bed. But man, like, I mean, Steve, my husband, is the best. I get it. He's the best dad in the world. But that was where a lot of my guilt came in. I was like, am I working too much? Am I not there emotionally? Especially after traumatic birth, I'm like, have I not bonded well enough? It was like a lot of guilt that I had about not being the chosen parent. Even though I was really glad that I wasn't the chosen parent. Like, I didn't have to do bath time all the time. I didn't have to do bedtime. But that was really challenging because I should, as the mother, be the chosen parent. And I had to really step back and think, I really had to step back and see that the other side of like, how lucky is my son to have 2 parents who love him so much that he's able to choose. He's able to make a choice. That's so beautiful.
And it was only for 8 months.
It was only for 8 months, but 8 months felt like a long time.
My son is turning 8, one turned 5, and they're still daddy's boys.
Yeah, hey.
So, yeah,
and it's hard. It's something that we don't talk about. And I think we don't talk about a lot of this because we're supposed to. It's supposed to be easy, and moms are supposed to just like love their kid right away. And I think that's the other thing is that we don't talk a lot about that first 6 weeks, even 6 months, however long it lasts. Sometimes you don't have that overreaching chemical Disneyland love for your kid. And you're like, I love this thing. But I don't want anything to happen to it, but I don't feel connected. And then we just pretend. We pretend that we're connected. We pretend that we're like really bonded when we're not. And I wish we could just take that a step away and remind people that sometimes it doesn't come till later. And my son is now 2.5, and about 6 months it clicked in for me. But it took me 6 months, and I was like, I love this kid, but like, where is that, like those fireworks? And I remember one of the first times he smiled at me, it like the whole body came. It'll come, but it doesn't have to come right away. And we don't have to continue to have this fairy tale viewpoint on what motherhood is, because motherhood is hard. I told my besties, I was like, I have never been happier, and I have never had the least amount of fun in my entire life. And isn't that the truth? Never been happier, but also like never had no fun.
And I think again it goes back to expectations and comparing yourself. I think that brings on a lot of trauma and stress, because you're like, why is my baby not crawling? Why are they not saying mommy? Why am I not the perfect mom? And that is only brought about because you're comparing yourself.
Yep. And comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
It really is. And we are just inundated with all this different information. And I talked to my mom about it, and I'm interested to know, we kind of talked a little bit about the cultural shift, even in generations. And my mom said they had one book, and they just kind of followed that book and then followed their parents' advice. We now have 40 different people telling us what to do, 40 courses that we're getting on Instagram about why we should breastfeed and why we should formula feed and why we should do baby-led weaning and why we should do all these things. And like, none of those things are wrong, but everybody tries to tell us that they're all wrong. Yes. Of course we're having a hard time with guilt. Like, of course we are.
Yeah.
What?
It's funny because there's such a huge difference in how kids are brought up in Zimbabwe and how they're brought up here. So when I had Inami, my first son, it was baby sleeps facing up. And my mom would be like, no, baby sleeps facing down.
I had the same thing.
And then you're like, okay, up, down, side, maybe that will balance the equation, No solids until baby is a year, or is it 6
It's
months?
6 months, I
can't even
think. Yeah.
remember. Yeah. But it's like, no, 3 months, just start giving them something soft. And you're like, oh my goodness, who am I supposed to listen to? You have the midwife, you have the pediatrician. So the struggle is real.
Yeah,
It's
and they
like-
all say different things. So I love what you kind of said at the beginning is set your own goal.
Yes.
And then reassess them.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
set
yeah.
your own goal that doesn't do with the things that you're going to see on Instagram. Because I promise you're going to see things on Instagram and you're going to question if you're a good mom or not.
And it's not even just about Instagram. When you have a baby shower,
That's very true.
how much advice do you get? Like, no, do it this way, do it that way. At the end of the day, take all those lovely conversations, sit in your bed and say, this is what I would like to try. This is like what I would like to do. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, such is life.
Yeah, exactly. The rest, just throw
Yeah.
it out. Just throw it out.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Now I have a couple questions kind of on confidence, and let's get a little bit deeper into confidence. So we talked about like your confidence of building a company, your confidence of being a mother. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received in terms of your confidence?
Be authentic. And the day someone told me, just be authentic, be yourself, is the day I went home and cut my hair. Because my confidence was a lot in my appearance and long hair and trying to fit in by my looks. But the moment I was like, okay, authentic for me means short hair.
Yeah.
Authentic for me means I'm okay being the only person of color at the table. And now I just show up, my short hair. I have no hair to pull out when I'm mad.
We love that. That's a bonus.
So yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any advice on how people can be authentic? And I get this question all the time, and I'll kind of say my 2 cents as well. But I want to hear yours first. How can people be more authentic?
I think it's being true to your values. A lot of times we have conversations, we are part of a conversation, and we give people answers that they expect, and not what you really want to say. I mean, obviously you have to be careful what you say, but we need to try and stop avoiding saying what you really feel and saying what will make a difference.
I love this.
And that is hard.
It is hard. And it's so interesting because I love that answer so much, because mine is also values, is finding actually what your values are and then deciding where you're living in those values and where you think you're a little disconnected and making those like tiny steps to get more to that authentic self. Yeah. But I think it also starts with values, really figuring out what's important to you.
Yeah, and sometimes when you avoid being authentic, you'll be sitting in a meeting and 5 minutes later, someone will say exactly what you wanted to say, and you're like, I wanted to say that. And then you realize your fear of being authentic is what stopped you from saying it before them.
That's actually a really good tell to notice like when you're not being authentic, is when someone does something and you're like, I want to be like that person, right?
It's a good balance of authentic and confidence.
Yeah.
Like, just say it.
Exactly. And if you want, let's even go back to Instagram, you see someone on Instagram and you're like, I want to be like them. Why? Does it feel like an authentic reason?
Yeah.
Then do it.
Yeah.
Right? Do that. What is the worst piece of advice you've ever received? This can be for mothering. This could be for lit care. You know what it is. You're like, you don't even have to tell me with anything else.
It's with building my business. Just go into it 100%. Quit your job. That's the worst advice. And a lot of investors will be like, no, we want you working full time in your business. The reality is you have a family, you have bills to pay, and so there's no way.
I really love that, because I think so a lot of people are like, I'm going to go 0 to 100 and that's going to work. But we have to be realistic, especially when we have people at home that we have to ensure are safe and fed, etc.
I always say if I was single and free, sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And I think that's the thing. The piece of advice that we're getting is often, especially in tech, is often the 25-year-old tech bro who honestly might even have some money from their family. I think that's also what we base a lot of like the success on, right? Of like, just do it.
Just do it.
But in reality, there's a lot of different intersectionalities that come into play that we have to remember and we have to sit with.
I mean, even events. I look at events. There's a lot of tech-related events. There's lots of after parties where the big decisions are made. But when we're going for after party, where am I going? To at least try and put my son to bed for the first time that week.
Yeah.
So it's not a fair game, but we gotta play.
I love this. So I want to kind of just recap all of this because this has been a really great conversation. What I heard really over and over again is setting your own goals and sticking to them and not letting other people just dictate what that goal is for you. Would you even maybe say that's what confidence is?
I think that's what confidence is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what confidence is. I mean, it's okay to listen and hear, but at the end of the day, you have the final say.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Last question for you, Lulu.
Okay.
What is the most important thing? I'm going to leave it open-ended for a reason.
Lulu's self-care.
Lulu's self-care.
Because when I'm not okay, everything else doesn't flow. When I am sick in our household, the whole house may not be sick, but you can tell mommy is not well. Same thing in business. If I don't take care of myself, life goes on for everything else, but lit care will not be built.
Lulu, you're amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in today. Come here, give me a big
Thank you
hug.
so much for having me.
We're going to... Disclaimer. This podcast is designed for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with relevant experts or professionals for personalized guidance.